Evening. Great. Good evening. Welcome to the meeting. It's 7:37 on Wednesday, September 18th. We're going to do the pledge and then go into our session. Thank you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America.
Trustee White,
Present.
trustee Casada,
Present.
deputy mayor Lopez,
Present.
and Mayor Levin.
Present. Aye.
We have a couple of public hearings first. First public hearing this evening is a local law amending chapter 92 of the Village of Ossining Code. Is there anyone that wishes to speak at that public hearing?
Is there anybody online, on Zoom? Okay.
Please raise your virtual hand if you want to speak on matter of a local law amending chapter 92 of the Village of Ossining. Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second, public hearing would be a proposed local law amending chapter 250 vehicles and traffic in the Village of Ossining Code. For anyone that wishes to speak on it? On second public hearing of the evening. Is there anyone who have it? Please raise your virtual hand. Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
And our third public hearing is in the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the 5-year plan effective January 1st, 2025. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on that Housing Choice Voucher Program? If you're online, could you raise your virtual hand if you want to speak? No? Do I have a motion to close that public hearing?
So move.
Second. Any comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and trustees announcements.
Am I right? Anybody? No? What about you? No? Okay, I will just say a word that since we last met, and I think it's been on social media a lot and stuff, there was somebody in our community that was a member, was an elected official for a couple of decades between all the different things he did. Northern Wiltshire, we're going to miss him. He was a very active member of Star of Bethlehem, long time community member. His family still lives here. And for me personally, he was very helpful when I started to look at being an elected official, and my husband as well. Just a terrific person. And I think he was also involved in Spike Lee's movie that was about the Klansman,
house.
right? Yeah,
His
his
house
house
was
was used. So a little bit of became famous for a few minutes there.
He wasn't that happy about it because they had to stay in a hotel
Yes,
and he missed his house.
he did. He's got actually a lovely house in the middle of our village. So anyway, our condolences to the family. Tomorrow, Star of Bethlehem at 10 has I don't know what it's called. It's called a showing. Is that what it's called? The wake, and then it goes in at 11 o'clock for a service, which many of us will be at. So just again, he will be greatly missed. There are a lot of activities going on. There's a show at Bethany this weekend. People are beginning to get ready for Halloween. Trustee White, maybe you want to say a couple of words just for those that might be viewing this about the
On our new
Halloween.
event?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. The Parks and Rec, the Village, Westchester Collaborative Theater, and the Austin Placemaking Committee are collaborating on an event at the Sing Sing Gill Greenway on Friday, October 18th, called The Haunted Kill. And it's our attempt at we're not going to be able to, we've had great Halloween stuff in the town in the past, and this is going to be, we're still working on it, but it's going to be on the Greenway, and we're going to turn it into a trail of terror. And it's for ages 13 and up. And the Westchester Collaborative Theater is producing 3 original pieces, very scary tales that will be told along the way. So it will be a tour of the Greenway, if you can imagine it, at night, dark, with lots of spooky happenings. And then there's going to be a band called the Sci-Flies, and they're a surf punk band. And then there's going to be an oddities market. Trying to the name Serpent and Bone, Moon Serpent and Bone Oddities Market, which is has a lot of followers in the Hudson Valley. And so it's a free event. And so come on down to the rec center. It's going to be in the parking lot, and then it will be along the trail, and wear a costume and come prepared to have the daylights scared out of you.
And when you see it on social media, for those of you that watch us, not necessarily tonight, but next week or so, pass that around, because share it with as many people as you can. It's the first one that we're doing of this kind. We've done other things, but this is the first
Right.
of this particular genre.
This is 13 and up, so it's not I mean, they have other, little kid Halloween events. The trunk or treat is still happening. It's not replacing anything. It's just an additional fun attraction.
Great. Now, well, this area, we're so close to Sleepy Hollow, this whole Rivertown area is always very involved. So wonderful. So that's another announcement. Before we hear the administrative reports, I just want to let the staff know that we're getting things really late. So anything that was not on the agenda, when I saw it on Friday and when the board saw it on Friday, we are not going to be looking at tonight unless somebody can explain to us why there's a time is of the essence issue that it has to be looked at tonight. Going forward, we're going to take things off the agenda that are not given to us by end of business on Friday. It's just unfair to expect people to read, and we've asked for this before, to read material, to remember what happened a month ago, 2 months ago, 3 years ago. It's a lot of volume, so unless it needs a signature from us or a sign off that it can't wait another week or so, we're going to be taking it off the agenda tonight, because we've asked for stuff to be sent to us in a more timely fashion, and it's like a lot. We just don't have a chance to read material, which makes some of us feel unprepared. So I had a request from a fellow trustee to say, we're not doing this. So anything not on Friday is going to be taken off the agenda. Problem? Jamie? Comments? Questions? Okay. All right. So we're going into Sue.
Administrative reports, Village Manager Karen Totori.
Good evening, everybody. And Mayor, to follow up on your comment, we really do try to make sure that the board gets everything on Friday, including updates of where we are on all our projects. There are times, however, and we try to make those the exception, not the rules, when things are late because they're somewhat out of our control and they are of a timely essence. So that should be the only time you're getting things like that, but we will make sure going forward to pay careful attention to that. I have some updates on Project Mover. 3 weeks in, we have total users of 319 users, and a total number of trips since we started the program 3 weeks ago are 517 trips. So people are starting to use our bikes, and we're glad to see that. So far, we think these are good indications that the program, we certainly saw a jump in August. The first week in August, there were 187 trips total, and then September to date, 330 trips. So people are using them. A lot of it's during the commutation time. So we do think that people are using it to get to the train station and back, which is great. Don't need a car or parking space. So that's fabulous. We're also making headway on several of our DRI and related projects in the village. So we're starting to reach a critical point where we're going to really see some change. We are nearing the completion of the design phase for the multimodal transportation hub, also parking garage slash bike rental facility. And our designers from THA have met with the community. key stakeholders, including police department, fire department, and our friends at Project Mover, who helped inform the bike rental area, and that the facility that will double, that will do double duty there for bike rentals and repairs. And as we go forward with the program, that also can be built flexibly, so we can use it for other uses should we choose. They will be following up with meetings with placemaking, and we should be seeing final designs within the next several weeks. Also, once we do finalize it and get closer to bidding and certainly construction, we will be talking with the local business owners and nearby businesses, as well as those who are right on that property, to make sure we have everything well coordinated for them. They still will have access to the rear of those buildings on Main Street. And currently we are on track for a spring 2026 completion. We're also working simultaneously with the Department of Transportation to finalize plans for the road diet. The coordination with the Department of Transportation is critical in this project, and we're working not only to ensure that we're talking to the top brass there, but that we're also talking to the regional and local officials, particularly the local officials at the local level, because we want to make sure that this project gets to the design phase somewhat seamlessly. And again, we're on track right now to complete this project in 2026. I believe it will likely be in the second half of 2026, but we will keep you apprised when we're able to get to a firmer date on that. Community centers moving ahead as well. We're kicking off a meeting with our newly hired consultants from DCAK MSA, and the first stakeholder will be a meeting of staff and board members. That would be rec staff, youth bureau staff, the Recreation Advisory Board representatives from the Recreation Advisory Board, the Youth Advisory Board, members of the Youth Council, the town supervisor, representatives from the senior nutrition staff, as well as the staff in the village that will be responsible for overseeing the project, and certainly board representation as well. This first meeting is scheduled for Monday, the 23rd at 6:30 p.m. and it will be held at the rec center. And this is really the first opportunity for the key users of the site, who know it sort of inside out from a programming standpoint of what we want to do today. They know what works with the space, what they'd like to see work with the space, hopefully in the future. And once we get input from those close-in stakeholders, we will be following up with community stakeholder sessions as well to inform the process. But our consultants will be listening closely to make sure they capture the information of what we want to see in the new site, and it'll be exciting to see some design concepts as they work forward. We also have some movement on some projects that we've been waiting a long time on. 30 Water Street is scheduled to close Wilder Balter in October. And once they close, they can break ground on 109 units of all affordable apartments down at 30 Water Street, along with community space and retail space, the completion of the Sing Sing Hill Greenway, and a parking facility that will serve not only the building, but will provide additional parking for residents throughout the municipality as well. We also have our senior housing project, which is an affordable housing project on Croton Avenue, where the nursery used to be, the old Sun Valley Nursery. That will also close towards the end of October. So they should be breaking ground this year too. And that will provide homes for 74 units of affordable housing specifically for senior residents. The village just completed its paving schedule for this year. So you may have noticed that Cedar Lane from Highland Avenue to Westview Avenue is newly paved, as is Audubon Drive, the entire length, and Van Wyck Street. They have one more street to pave. It is in the town, and this is through the town IMA, and that would be Ganung Drive, for those who may live there, sitting next to me. So anyway, that's coming. And in addition to the fall colors that usually grace the Hudson Valley, You can be looking out for some colors throughout the village too. Our placemaking planters, which are brightly colored, will be popping up very shortly, as will some perennial gardens around our Ossining signs in parks and at key places of interest throughout the village. And if you've driven down Main Street after dark, you may see some lighting around the trees, which will now be controlled via Wi-Fi. Thank you to Pasqualina Velardo. That will be able to provide some uplighting for all of the trees, and we will be able to change those colors. So we're starting with orange for autumn, but those colors can be key to different holidays and events throughout the village. And that concludes the my report for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank-
Questions? Annie? Good. Okay.
Moving on, Corporation Counsel, Stuart Kahan.
Thank you, Sue. Good evening, folks. Busy. There were 2 public hearings that have already been held on local laws. There will be 2 resolutions tonight calling for public hearings on local laws. And there are resolutions to adopt 4 additional local laws, which after tonight would bring us up to local law 15 of 2024. So I want to thank the board and everyone who's been of great assistance in getting all of these local laws put together and pushed out. My thanks to the folks in the clerk's office who deal with my constant changes to the agenda and making sure that I've numbered the local laws correctly. I read one of the resolutions and saw it was off, so we'll change that on the fly. In response to what the mayor said earlier, there are a few additional resolutions which were sent late today. I should point out they relate to 30 Water Street. We learned late today that the financial closing for 30 Water Street will be taking place on Tuesday, which is why the resolutions need to go today. We didn't know about the need, particularly for the easement resolution, which will come up later, until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. The other resolution, which deals with the land acquisition and disposition agreement, is actually my bad, if I can say, because I draft all the resolutions the Thursday before the meeting. I drafted this one. This is the one that I neglected to send down to the clerk's office, realized it today. But again, those are needed with regard to the closing that is actually going to be taking place on Tuesday. So we can go into greater detail about that as we come on. But other than that, there is a planning board meeting this Tuesday. Planning board did not meet in August, so this will be a busy meeting on Tuesday's calendar. You're welcome to watch or to get any of the documents you want off of the village's website. And that's it from Corp Counsel. Thank you.
Police Chief Aaron Zimmerman.
As we kind of wrap up the summer season in the next couple of days, I figured I would share with some statistics from June, July, and August as far as traffic summonses were concerned. Through the months of June, July, and August, the department issued 1,522 vehicle and traffic summonses, averaging out to just over 507 a month. 122 parking summonses were issued, averaging just over 840 a month. Out of those V&T summonses, out of those traffic stops, just for those 3 months, 31 DWIs arrests were made, just over 10 a month. And for anyone concerned about some of the, public drinking that's been going on, I know it's been kind of a hot topic lately, but just under 30 public consumption summonses were issued as well. So good work to the men and women of the police department for trying to keep the roads safe and the streets safe. Also, this past Monday.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
those? And those sound like really big numbers to me. It sounds like a lot. So the question is, in relation to the past year, couple of years, 3 years, like trend wise, is this like a lot? Is it medium? Is it average? Like, I'm trying to get a sense for where it falls on a trend basis.
They are up from last year. How much I don't know. I
Okay.
didn't compare them, but they've been on the rise steadily since 2020.
Okay, everything has been on the
Yep.
rise. Okay, so like just in the future, when we get numbers, if you could put context, any kind of context, whether it's a trend, it's the last 3 years, it's, this month to this time last year, just so we have a sense of sizing, that'll be like a lot to me. Now, of course, we manage all that, right? You guys, I think one person will say that's great, another person will say, what? That's not great. So, I guess everybody's out there doing their job, basically.
Yep. Also, last Wednesday, or actually Thursday, the department, myself, Captain Donahue, Lieutenant Lance, and Sergeant McGovern went up to Albany to accept department's certification of accreditation for this cycle. The department was reaccredited this year on officially on September 12th. Originally accredited in 2009, this demonstrates a high level of excellence and professionalism in the field of law enforcement by continuing to meet the standards established by the New York State Law Enforcement Agency Accreditation Council. Council was once again proud to once again award accreditation to the Ossining Police Department for the period of September 12th, 2024 through September 11th, 2029, when we go through the process once again.
So it's a 5-year
Correct.
accreditation.
Yep.
Geez, what happens if you don't pass?
Not good.
Wow, okay.
Uh,
Well, then good that we passed or you passed.
Yeah, it really just demonstrates the dedication that everyone puts into maintaining the training records, the standards, maintaining, it's 111 standards that are, checked that make sure that we adhere to our rules and regulations and, that we actually are practicing what we preach on paper.
Great.
So
Well, congratulations.
kudos to everybody. That's all I've got.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, short and sweet. We like that.
Okay, next is organizational announcement, or announcements should be event related only and should be no longer than 2 minutes in length. Is there anyone in our virtual world that would like to talk about an organizational event? Please raise your virtual hand. Seeing no one, we'll move on. Public comment on agenda items. Visitors are accorded a 4-minute opportunity to address the board on any of the resolutions on the agenda. Is there anyone in our virtual world that would like to speak on that? Please raise your virtual hand. All right, moving on, visitor recognition. Visitors shall be accorded a 3-minute opportunity to address the board on issues not related to the agenda, but of relevance to the common good of the village. Is there anyone in the virtual world that would like to raise their virtual hand to talk about that?
What's the matter?
I lost my Zoom connection.
Oh, okay.
Okay, moving on, we'll go to the board resolutions. Approval of minutes, August 21st, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of August 21st, 2024 at the regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Any comments?
All in
Sid?
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the September 4th, 2024 special meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Abstain.
Who was there? It was just the three of us, right?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah, I have you down as
Yep.
Jamie, you want us to wait for a second?
Okay, we can wait.
Yeah.
somewhere, right? No, it's a fan. It's really noisy. Well, there's only a few of us in the room, so I don't think it's necessary. That's really noisy.
And the lights. While you're up.
Those are really loud.
Oh,
Oh, my God.
Thank you, Chief.
Like
Yeah,
you
no
can't hear anything.
Thank you,
It's
Jamie.
ridiculous. Wow. Okay, so we're still not on the internet. Okay. We can still do the meeting because we're live? Okay.
we're
I think
still-
my internet is out as well.
Ah, okay. There we go.
You're still connected?
He's connected.
Yeah.
Okay,
Going this way.
all right.
Yeah, we have Zoom up, up on the screen, so, but it's her people outside that, was there anybody there? Okay.
Okay.
If they come on, we can ask them again, okay? Okay.
All right.
Okay, approval of the voucher detail report, September 18th, 2024. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated September 18th, 2024, in the amount of $956,958.75. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Sorry.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay. Dale, can you hear me? Fantastic.
Oh,
I,
good.
besides the capital projects, because that was like 600,000 something dollars on that one. I do have a question on the voucher details, page number 26. Let me know when you're there.
Hang on one second. Page 26 of the regular voucher report, not the
Yeah.
Medicare.
Yeah, the one that is actually says page 26 on top. on the-
Okay, yep.
All right. So round trip to the Empire CC Golden, underneath that, the casino. You explain that to me, who went to the casino?
This would be the seniors.
Is that one of the senior programs that we have?
Yes, they do assorted trips during the year.
But isn't it the senior program run and
By the
refresh my
town.
memory? Yes, by the town itself?
The town has the nutrition program.
Right.
So we have
Which is
senior-
another arm, but our recreation department also has their own program base for
Okay.
the seniors as well. Mhm.
'Cause this is maybe I didn't look this last time, but this is not often that we do this. Are we? Because we do all the kind of trips. I never seen one to the casino for some reason.
Where's the,
Empire City. Yeah,
That's Yonkers,
that's
Yeah.
it.
the Empire. Yes, they do, they don't do a lot of trips during the year. They do a few. And I think sometimes they'll do even a lunch out, as
That I
an
have seen,
outing.
yeah,
Yep.
That I
mhm,
have seen.
Yep. But like you, I have never seen a casino trip before. And
Yeah, I was just curious. I
Yeah.
mean,
Probably
Yeah.
a request,
I'm sorry, Sue.
probably a request from the seniors.
There's not a typical program that make that a part of that era. Who does that at the senior arrangements in there? Is that Bill as well?
yes.
Okay. All right.
mhm.
I can
That-
actually answer this. So they have a program in the summer called the Golden Agers, and they do baseball trips. They do a trip to a concert. They go to the movie theater. But I can say, I know last summer and this summer, they both, it's just for I don't believe it covers anything other than their bus ride there.
All I thought it was pretty cool. I
Yeah,
just wasn't sure
they have a
who-
lot of people.
He's
that sign
hoping
up.
that somebody won money and then donated it to us.
Well, I didn't say that, but I
The
thought it was
Golden
pretty
Acres.
cool.
That's what they're called.
They did,
So,
they did
Alright.
go to the Yonkers one.
yeah, they do that every summer. There's
Okay,
Like
all right,
6 or 7 trips that they go on.
no problem. Thank you.
Sure.
That was my question for them. So thanks.
Moving
Okay.
on, memorandum of understanding, Westchester County Safe Streets Task Force. Resolved that following the review of Corporation Council, the village manager and the chief of police are authorized to sign the memorandum of understanding with the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the village's participation in the Westchester County Safe Streets Task Force. Do I have a motion?
No move.
Second?
So is this the one that you wanted more information on? Yeah.
I was wondering what this is.
Yeah.
What is, I mean, what does this entail? I tried to click on the link, but it was for something else. So I just don't know what,
Chief, I know you discussed it at the work session. Do you want to just?
oh,
give the
did you discuss
trustee-
it at the work session?
But you want to give the trustee just a brief background. on that?
Sorry, I forgot. It must have been fascinating, but I'm sorry, could you repeat it? I'm sure it is.
I guess it wasn't as riveting as it.
Oh, I'm sure you were. I just,
What it is a partnership with other agencies throughout Westchester and also the FBI, where we use joint resources to do investigations or further investigations into the crimes.
and this is something we've done before. I mean, it's a, That's
We have
new?
worked with other task forces in the past. This is really the first time working with this particular task force, but we have, as an agency, worked with them on numerous cases in the past.
okay.
So maybe we'll get a report at some point, a year from now, about how that worked, et cetera.
Yeah, our experience has been nothing but positive so far.
Okay,
Really been a good resource for the department and some of the more major crimes that we have.
okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call for a public hearing, proposed local law 2024 entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 8, Civilian Police Complaint Review Board of the Village of Austin Code. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 PM on September 30th, 2024 at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider proposed local law 2024 entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 8, Civilian Police Complaint Review Board of the Village of Austin Code. And be it further resolved that the proposed local law amends Section 8-13, Civilian Investigator, by extending the pilot program of the Civilian Investigator until December 31st, 2026. Be it further resolved that the members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be it further resolved that members of the public requiring a reasonable accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to the person's disability shall notify Corporation Council no later than 7 days before the public hearing at kahan@villageofaustin.org. Change that soon. To afford the village significant time to provide reasonable accommodation, and be it further resolved that those members of the public which want to attend and participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be available via Zoom platform, and be it further resolved that all comments and that comments can be regarding the proposed law can be accepted by the Board of Trustees at bot@villageofaustin.org. Do I have a motion?
No move.
Second?
Any comments? Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yep. Public hearing, proposed, a call for a public hearing, excuse me. Call for a public hearing, proposed law 2024 entitled A Local Law Amending Chapter 194, Peace and Good Order, General Ordinances of Quality of Life, and Chapter 190, Parks and Recreation of the Village of Austin Code. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby calls for a public hearing to take place at 7:30 PM on September 30th, 2024 at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Austin, New York, to consider proposed local law 2024 entitled A Local Law Amending 250 Vehicles and Traffic of the Village of Austin Code. And be it further resolved that members of the public are invited to attend the public hearing in person at the above referenced location, and be it further resolved that members of the public requiring a reasonable accommodation to participate in the public hearing due to the person's disability shall notify Corporation Counsel no later than 7 days before the public hearing at kahan@villageofaustin.org to afford the village a significant time to provide a reasonable accommodation, and be it further resolved that members of the public who want to attend and participate in the public hearing remotely, access will be available via the Zoom platform, and be it further resolved that comments regarding the proposed local law will be accepted by the Board of Trustees at bot@villageofaustin.org. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolution authorizing settlement, Osting Steamer Company, Inc. Whereas the Osting Steamer Company, Inc. claimant filed a notice of claim with the village clerk on or about August 26, 2024, resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Osting authorizes a settlement of the claim of Osting Steamer Company, Inc., and be it further resolved that the treasurer of the Village of Osting hereby authorized and directed to pay a settlement in the proceeds of $14,370 to Osting Steamer Company, Inc., 117 Main Street, Osting, New York, upon receipt of a release signed by the officer of the complaint. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments? This was discussed actually, last week, well, so. Sue?
All in favor?
Aye.
A resolution of the village's investment policy. Revision, excuse me, I apologize. Revision of the village's investment policy. Whereas Part 6 of the investment policy in the list of banks and trust companies authorized to deposit of monies in the maximum amount, and whereas one of the banks, Webster Bank, currently is authorized to hold no more than $15 million on behalf of the village, and whereas the village treasurer has determined that the maximum amount allowed to be held by Webster Bank for the Village of Austin should be increased from $15 million to $60 million. Now therefore be it resolved that the village's investment policy is amended effective September 18th, 2024, increasing from $15 million to $60 million, and the allowable maximum amount to be held by Webster Bank for the village. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excuse me, so
I thought-
Stuart, this is where what I approved on Friday is going off track. There was, in my version that I signed off on, there is the overgrowth assessment for 14 Ann. Where did it move here to? Or was it
This
taken off?
resolution was always in the agenda. The assessment was taken off of the agenda because the people paid. But
Okay, so this was, right, so
but
this
this
is
was
not
always there. It may
hearing.
have been a different number, but
Yeah.
it was, that letter was always, this resolution was always in this agenda.
Oh, we skipped the one.
Okay, so it's not in this one that we're looking at because it was paid off. Okay.
Okay, J, this is going to be a roll call vote. Adoption of local law 2024, a local law repealing the current chapter of 162 Housing, Property Maintenance, and Building Code Administration, and the adopting of new chapter of 162 Housing and Property Maintenance in the Village of Austin Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, the Village Board, has been considering the adoption of a proposed law 2024 entitled a local law repealing chapter 162 Housing and Property Maintenance and Building Code Administration, Article I, Technology, and Article 1, I apologize. And Article 2 titled Equitability and Consensual or
Construal.
Construal.
Yep.
And Article 3, General Provisions, and Article 4, Space and Equipment Requirements, and Article 5, Occupant Responsibilities, and Article 7, Commercial Occupancy, and Article 9, Outdoor Signs, and Article 10, Transfer of Ownership, and Article 11, Residential Occupancy Restrictions, and adopting a new chapter 162, Housing and Property Maintenance to the Village of Austin Code, and whereas a public hearing was conducted on August 21st, 2024 at 7:30 PM at the Municipal Building, 16 Groton Avenue, Austin, New York, and via Zoom platform, affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard, and whereas the public hearing was closed on August 21st, 2024, now therefore be it resolved, whereas the proposed local law is a type 2 action requiring no determination significant pursuant with the secra regulations, and whereas there are no impediments of approving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby adopts local law 1224, a local law repealing the current chapter 162 and adopting a new chapter 162, housing and property maintenance, and be it further resolved that the local law 2024 shall become effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with municipal home rule law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments? I think this was discussed at length. Sue?
Is a roll call vote? Trustee Casada,
Aye.
trustee White,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Lopez,
Aye.
and Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Adoption. Our next is adoption of local law 13/2024, a local law amending chapters 88 brush, grass, and weeds, and 2029 streets and sidewalks, 133 fire hazard inspections, 155 graffiti, 249 vacant building and storefront registry, 225 solid waste, 227 stormwater management and erosion and sediment control, and chapter 91 building construction for the Village of Austin Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees, of the Village of Austin Code have been considering the adoption of local law 2024, amending chapters 88, 229, 133, 155, 249, 225, 227, and 91 of the Village Code. And whereas a public hearing was conducted on August 21st at 7:30 PM of the Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, Austin, New York, and via Zoom platform, affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard. And whereas the public hearing was closed on August 21st, 2024. And whereas the proposed local law is a type 2 action requiring no determination of significance pursuant with the secra regulations. And whereas there are no impediments to improving the proposed local law, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby adopts as local law 13-2024, a local law amending chapters 88, 29, 133, 155, 249, 225, 227, and 91 of the Village of Austin Code, and be further resolved that the local law 13-2024 shall become in effect upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with the Municipal Home Rule Law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Are there any comments on this one? Sue?
Okay, roll call vote. Trustee White,
Aye.
trustee Casada,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Lopez,
Aye.
and Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Third, a local law. Adoption of local law 14-2024, a local law readopting chapter 57 video conferencing for public bodies with the Village of Austin Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin, the Village Board, has been considering the adoption of a proposed local law 2024 entitled a local law readopting chapter 57 video conferencing by public bodies to the Village of Austin Code. And whereas the public hearing was conducted on August 21st, 2024 at 7:30 PM at the Municipal Building, 16 Croton Avenue, Austin, New York, via the Zoom platform, affording members of the public the opportunity to be heard. And whereas the public hearing was closed on August 21st, 2024, and whereas the proposed local law is a type 2 action requiring no determination of significant commission pursuant with the secra regulations, and whereas there is no impediments to approving the proposed local law, now therefore be resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Austin hereby adopts local law 14-2024, a local law readopting chapter 57 video conferencing by public bodies, and be it further resolved that local law 14-2024 shall become effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant with the municipal home rule law. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
Roll call vote. Trustee Casada,
Aye.
trustee White,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Lopez,
Aye.
and Mayor Levin.
Aye.
Yep.
Okay. I feel like the Tonight Show. Resolution amendments to Chapter 270, seeker determination of significance, negative declaration. Whereas the Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining, located in Westchester County, New York, is proposing zoning amendments which would amend Chapter 270 zoning. And whereas the proposed action would affect all zoning districts in the Village of Ossining. And whereas the proposed action revises and reorganizes definitions, use group classifications, and requirements for zoning districts. And whereas by resolution adopted August 14, 2024, the Board of Trustees declared itself as lead agency for this proposed local law and made a preliminary determination that the proposed amendments to Chapter 270 constitute an unlisted action pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act, Regulation 617.2 AL. Now therefore be it resolved, the Village Board of Trustees, Village of Ossining Board of Trustees finds that pursuant to Article 8 of the State Environmental Conservation Law and 6 NYCRR Part 617, and based upon review of the EAF Parts 1 and 2, all application materials, required referrals, and consultant reports that were prepared for this action, the Village Board adopts a negative declaration in connection with the project. And be it finally resolved that the seeker negative declaration resolution shall have an effective date of September 18, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
Any comments on this? So this is a part of the conversation with Valerie Manastra last week. We are, I mean, for lack of, I think, better word, reorganizing and cleaning up. We have code books that are just, have been built over decades, and they've gotten hard to read, hard to understand, even the definitions, which is why definitions are mentioned. You know, every couple of decades, definitions change: housing, land, environment, family, all sorts of definitions, and society changes, and it's complicated. And it's a lot of work. So we put a project together a couple of years ago to start looking at definitions and looking, for those of you that follow us, and realigning our codes so that while it looks complicated tonight, is a lot of hours of work to try to have consistency and synergy from chapter to chapter, and so the judges can understand it, so staff can understand it, so the public can understand it. So it's a sort of a journey that we keep going on, and that was discussed. If anybody wants to look at it in length during the work session, and now we're voting to make it happen. Well, the recommendations to become a reality.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is not a roll call. This is different.
No.
Okay,
There-
so
There will
aye.
be a roll call again in a few moments.
Okay, aye.
Okay. As we are now. Adoption of Local Law 2024, local law amending Chapter 270 zoning of the Village of Ossining Code. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining has been considering the adoption of Local Law 2024 titled the Local Law Amending Chapter 270 Zoning. And whereas the proposed amendments revise and reorganize definitions, use group classifications, and requirements for zoning districts. And whereas the Village Board on September 18, 2024, adopted a negative declaration regarding the proposed amendments. And whereas pursuant to Section 270-59, the proposed changes to Chapter 270 were referred to the Village of Ossining Planning Board and a response was provided. And whereas the proposed amendments were referred to the Westchester County Planning Board and a response was provided. And whereas the proposed amendments were referred to the Environmental Advisory Council and a response was received. And whereas a public hearing on the proposed local law was held on August 7, 2024, and members of the public were able to participate both in person and via the Zoom platform, as well as by submitting written communication to the Board of Trustees. And whereas the public hearing was closed on August 7, 2024. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby adopts this local law as Local Law 15-2024 and directs that said local law be filed and or distributed in accord with the applicable law. And be it further resolved that pursuant to New York Village Law, Section 7-7065, the text of local law, and that should be 15-2024, shall be entered in the minutes of the Village Board, and be it further resolved that local law should be 15-2024 shall become effective upon filing with the Secretary of State pursuant to the Municipal Home Rule Law. Do I have a motion
So move as
as
amended.
amended?
Second.
Okay,
Any
this will be,
comments?
any comments? I'm sorry.
Okay,
This will be a roll call vote. Trustee White,
Aye.
Trustee Cazada,
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Lopez,
Aye.
and Mayor Levin.
aye.
Thank you. Okay. Fire Department removal from active roles, Washington Hook and Ladder. Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby removes the following firefighters from the active roles of the Ossining Fire Department, Washington Hook and Ladder Company Number 2, Alberto Pancrudo, David Wheeler, Ken Seelig, and Barnatus Isidore. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution O, authorizing settlement of litigation. Resolved that upon recommendation of the Corporation Counsel and the village's outside defense counsel, the Board of Trustees approves the settlement of the case Stephen Sack versus Port Imperial Ferry Corp., Village of Ossining, Town of Ossining, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, and Metro North Commuter Railroad Company, commenced in Supreme Court, Westchester County, under index number 61974/2023 for $70,000, of which amount the village will contribute $35,000, and is further resolved that upon review by the Corporation Counsel of the general release and stipulation of discontinuance with prejudice, the village treasurer is authorized to issue a check in the amount of $35,000 payable to Stephen Sack and his attorneys. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Is there any continuing business of the board? Hearing none. New business of the board. Authorization for village to accept payment and satisfaction of foreclosed tax liens, 87 Broadway. Let me just flip ahead here. Whereas the applicable redemption period expired as of September 22, 2021 for the 2018 real property taxes, which had become delinquent tax liens in June 2021. And with such expiration of the redemption period, the treasurer has no authority without action by the Board of Trustees to accept further payments. And whereas the applicable redemption period expired as of October 18, 2022 for the 2019 real property taxes, which had become delinquent tax liens in July 2022, and with such expiration of the redemption periods, the treasurer has no authority without action by the Board of Trustees to accept further payments. And whereas notwithstanding the expiration of such redemption periods, the representative of the property owner for certain real property located in the village at 87 Broadway has provided sufficient proof of, one, an ability to pay in full all taxes and assessments against the subject property to bring the account up to date, and two, the ability to make a full and complete settlement in satisfaction of the foreclosed delinquent tax liens. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Ossining Board of Trustees hereby authorizes and directs the treasurer to accept payment in amount sufficient to pay in full the total amount, including any interest, penalties, and other charges authorized by law of the real property taxes and any tax liens, both pending and foreclosed, for property located at 87 Broadway, 89.19-1-86 in the Village of Ossining, and authorizes any and all necessary filings or notifications to evidence a release of said liens against the property. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Great. So comment section, Dale, is that one of the reasons you're here? Is for this? Explain to us what this is.
Good evening. Yes, in part. I was contacted by the property owner, and I believe he's trying to submit an application with the building department, and with the process in place for the building department to not approve or move forward any applications if there are outstanding taxes or what are on the property. That's why this became a little bit more of a time constraint, so that he can pay his taxes and move forward.
So, I mean, this is under new business. So just so I understand, what are we actually voting on? Why is this coming in front of us?
You're authorizing Dale to accept, because otherwise, once the redemption period has ended, the treasurer is without authority to accept tax payments without board approval.
So he's been not paying his taxes, he or she, I don't know who the person
For
is.
these 2 years, just for the 2 years,
Just
28
just
and
for 2
29.
years. Okay.
And so he's now come in saying that he would like to pay the taxes, but since the redemption period has run, the only way that the treasurer can legally accept is with a resolution from this board.
Assuming there's like interest payments and all these late fees and all the other stuff associated with it.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else have any comments on this? Okay,
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And folks, we have,
Thank
as
you.
I said earlier today,
Thanks,
there are
Dale.
Thanks.
two other resolutions, which I'll start. First, they both relate to the 30 Water Street project. The first, 30 Water Street, Third Amendment to Land Acquisition and Disposition Agreement. Whereas the Village and WBP Development LLC entered into a land acquisition and development agreement, LATA, dated February 9, it should be disposition agreement, dated February 9, 2022, for the project site as defined in the LATA. And whereas the LATA was amended by a First Amendment to the Land Acquisition and Disposition Agreement dated July 26, 2022, between the Village and WBP Development LLC. And whereas the LATA was amended by a Second Amendment to the Land Acquisition and Disposition Agreement dated February 6, 2024, between the Village and WPB Development LLC. And whereas WBP Development LLC assigned its interest in the LATA to WB 30 Water Street LLC pursuant to an assignment agreement dated July 29, 2024. And whereas representatives from the Village and WB 30 Water Street LLC have been discussing a Third Amendment to the LATA, now therefore be it resolved that following review by the Village's Special Counsel for Land Use Matters, the Corporation Council and Village staff, the Village manager is authorized to sign the Third Amendment to the Land Acquisition and Disposition Agreement. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Okay, so this is sort of new, not so new, but yes, new. This is a Third Amendment. What is it that we're amending?
There are a number of, it's more technical changes than anything in terms of, they were discussed with the board or with regard to this Third Amendment in terms of what would be, how the payment would actually be reflected in the LATA. That part of it depended upon information the developer got from their tax and tax counsel. So the language was changed. The basic elements of the land acquisition and disposition agreement have not changed in the least. The number of, I believe, condominium units was changed. It was originally 5, it's now 4, which was again something requested by the by council because in this case, the condominium council, it was discussed with our land use council, and there was found some issue with regard to that. So we are recommending that third to the land acquisition disposition agreement be signed.
Yeah, and not, oh, I'm sorry. go
My
ahead.
recollection of some of the conversation was that we didn't want to, I think, said we didn't want to change any of that stuff. Had to do something with the financial status, how they were breaking it down. Your store, am I mixing up?
No,
conversations?
but that was the original version of the third revision. Where it is now is in a situation where the money is what it was before. And what they've basically put into this Third Amendment is just to make it clear from a tax perspective as to how they basically have to word it. Part of it dealt with how they were going to deal with the work they were doing for the village, essentially. But all of that is in there. The elements that they are required to do for the village are all within the agreement. Nothing has been changed.
Forgive me, I don't remember seeing this revised Third Amendment besides this. That is my fault. I'll take.
No, it was not your fault. Again, it was a document that only was very recently provided to us by them, but again, reviewed by both by Land Use Council and then reviewed by me. I'm happy to forward it to the board, but again, it's here tonight because part of it is that we were told literally today that the closing will be Tuesday.
Me personally, I just don't feel 100% there, but to agree to something that I think would be basic. Again, it was provided to us in a work session to discuss that. I feel more comfortable right now. I'm just gonna say no to this, or abstain myself, but I'll leave that to the rest of the board for that.
Yeah, I can't vote on, there's a reason why elected officials vote, okay? The reason is that we're supposed to know what we're voting on. What we're getting here is like, we looked at everything, it really hasn't changed, but it really has changed. If it hasn't changed, then we don't need to be sitting here talking about it. It's really uncomfortable to sign, this conversation about the ladder took months and months and months. And now we're getting amendments without any explanation of what it is. I'm really sorry that the developer is in a rush. I really am. These guys do hundreds of buildings around the country. and to give you something on the afternoon that we're supposed to just sign off on. I'm feeling like a rubber stamp here. And while I love the project, I don't like feeling like a rubber stamp.
I apologize for
No,
that.
I'm not blaming you.
No, but
At all.
I do want to explain, because I appreciate what the board members are saying. It also, I don't want it to anyone on the board to think that this has not been vetted by staff, that we're just throwing this at you. I realize you have not seen it. I understand that. But I will tell you that it has, and that's the same with the easement agreement, which is still actually to be discussed in the next resolution. But again, and I apologize for the time-sensitive nature of it. It's not really our call, but basically they're in a position where they're closing with the county. And my understanding is it's Tuesday. And I'll let the manager if there's anything else, but I'm sort of.
So it's not unusual that we get things and again, the timely, a lot of, as you know, what we do, particularly when we're working with government subsidized projects, is a lot of hurry up and wait. So the closing, my concern is, and I would be happy we can reconvene, but I think if we miss this closing, I don't know, this is cycled money. It could significantly postpone the start of the project. And I don't think that's in the village's best interest. So this wouldn't be without consequence. The nature of the change had to do with the ability to it be evaluated from a tax perspective. We spent a lot of time working with them, nuancing words that in the end made sure that nothing changed. So it was really a nuancing of language that one could argue didn't change anything in the first place, but we worked with them to get that done, so we would not have the impression of a rubber stamp board, because we take that very seriously as well, because ultimately it's our recommendation that you're doing this on. I do think that if the board wants more information, we're going to have to get more information and do a special meeting unless we're going to delay the closing, which will significantly delay and jeopardize the project as a whole. And unfortunately, sometimes that is the situation that we're up against when we're trying to do this work, because we're not getting that information to respond to as quickly as we would need to keep you all fully informed to the level of detail.
Well, I mean, I, for one, am willing to vote for this. I trust you guys. I don't want to delay this project. Stuff like this happens. I think that, obviously the changes were minor if they felt that they didn't have to, that they could deal with it. So I'm willing to vote on it.
I am as well. I guess my question is for my colleagues, is the hesitation material, I guess, substantive? Is there something here that having additional time would allow us to better understand, or is it the principle of this being last minute?
What is it that you guys think you're voting on? That the staff sat there, did not include us in the process, is recommending something that we have a responsibility. Do you know what you're voting on? Like, do you know what the changes are, what they include, why it was changed, when it was, I'm sorry, okay? So I can't vote without understanding what I'm voting on. They could have come here tonight, okay? They've got hundreds of employees. I had to run in to sign some other things the other day. It can't be this they're late, so we have an emergency. And the comment that if we don't sign, this project won't happen is insulting, because I don't know what you guys are voting on. Excuse me, what are you voting on? What is it that you're voting on? Tell me in your own words what you are voting on right now on behalf of the public that you represent.
Yeah.
Like the project, we all like the project. We want this project to happen. We have bent over backwards to make this project happen, right? The staff has worked who knows how many hundreds of hours on this project. You get something in the afternoon, none of us know about it. Tell me in your words what you are voting on in the name of 30,000 people in this community.
For sure. So the process that we and the conversation that we have had, which is the real substantive conversation to me, is am I in agreement of having this land, which is village land, being turned over to this developer for this project? This is an amendment to that agreement, that land use agreement, to be able to do that. And while what I'm hearing from our corporation counsel, our village manager, the change to the specifics of how that works have been updated. There's nothing substantive to me. If the question was, hey, it was that we were leasing the land for 99 years, now we're only leasing it for 12 years. That's a big deal. We should talk about that because that's a big deal. If it were something like that, that were meaningfully changing the spirit of what we discussed, then I would want to have a full conversation to say, what are the pluses, what are the minuses, et cetera. As I understand it, it's pretty much exactly what we agreed on, with updated language that allows what we wanted to happen. If there's something more specific that they want to elucidate, if there's points of disagreement, then I'm happy to discuss those. As I understand it, this is in line with what I originally signed on to, which was for this project to do the ladder so that this project can move forward.
But the last time we discussed the ladder, it wasn't a minor deal. In fact, the staff didn't understand what the tax issues were at that time, and that's where it was left off. No explanation of what the changes was. So here's my concern. We have a checks and balance system in government, right? This isn't like other people do the work and tell us it's okay, we're good, it's everything you agreed to in the first place, right? It probably is, but I'm not feeling good about it because there's not an ounce of explanation about what this actually means and how, except that a condo number is changing by one, which I guess is fine. I don't know. How would I know? It's like I feel like I'm voting in a vacuum because a developer is late on something and not the first time and doesn't have the decency to have somebody zoom in or come in here and explain to us, hey, these are the changes. It actually, I don't think it is the staff's job to speak on our behalf about every single thing, because then I don't think any of us need to sit here. We don't need to vote. We don't need to do anything. So I don't know what we're voting on, except like we've done the work. We think it's okay and we think these are minor changes, but I don't know that because I've got nothing to look at. I can't vote in. For me, it's really uncomfortable. And I think it's obnoxious that a developer of that magnitude doesn't have somebody come in here and say, hey, listen, this is what's going on. This is what we're doing. I find that to be like sort of rude, to be honest with you. And it's not the same issue that Manny has. It's being told hours before our meeting without any ability to even understand what's actually being done here. So basically, it's trust us. It's okay. It's everything you've wanted. We've been talking about this for years. There is no way that anybody here knows exactly what each of us wanted in this process. The only thing we all agree on is 109 units in that building with 4 parking levels and the kill going away, and that there's supposed to be sidewalks and all that. That's what we all want. And that it's all affordable. Not sort of affordable, all affordable, which we think is a big win. What we've learned with the LADA is, what I've learned, which I never understood until I saw it, is that the LADA drives absolutely everything. And like our legislation, a word in a sentence actually changes the meaning. And once we sign this and once we vote, we can't go back on anything. It's done. We've had this happen with us with the LADA in the past about a couple of issues that were so above my understanding that I felt like an idiot that I'd voted on it.
Mayor,
It's
may
beyond my understanding.
I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Why don't we?
So we have 4
No, no,
people.
no,
We're going to
no,
have a
no,
2
no.
and 2 vote, which is
No,
a
no.
problem.
What I'm recommending is that we hold off on the 2 resolutions and we look at if we can, special meeting Monday. I don't want to hold, if we can avoid holding up their closing, because the fact of the matter is, it does go in a particular schedule. And if they don't get the closing on Monday, it could be months. So if we,
Unless this is some sort of a new world that we live in, closings are scheduled in advance, right?
I am told that this information they got from whoever it is, I think it's with the county, whoever is doing the financing,
Okay.
they just got that date. They literally just got that date.
There has been an issue. It's possible, and I'm happy to reach out to the developer now to see if he can jump on the Zoom right now, if you'd rather do that instead of a special meeting. again,
My only problem is I don't know what I'm voting on, except trust us, it's okay. It's not a good feeling for me. I'm not
no,
bashing
no, I
you guys. I'm not
completely,
saying you didn't do your job.
completely understand. I will say
What am I
that
voting
it is, something that maybe requires a developer. I think I can probably get the developer to
Don't
jump
get him
on.
on the phone. That's fine.
All right.
I don't know
well,
if Zoom is even working now, though.
No,
Okay,
I
I'm
think it, for me, is even if he gives them.
By the way, we are not speaking about this, excuse me, Manny. Manny and I are not speaking on the same issue. Just so we're clear, we're not talking about the same thing. We're each talking about something else right now. So I don't want
Actually, was
one to
trying
diminish
yeah,
the
I
other
was
one.
trying to be nice.
Oh,
and I
no,
was
no, you
holding
are
off on-
being
no, no,
nice.
But what you said, 100%, I agree with.
I just want to make it clear,
but-
there are two issues by
but
two
yes.
different members of this board. It's not one issue and two people are on it. So be
I just-
aware of
even,
that.
Even if the developer jumps in right now, still don't have all that information or the revised data that was provided. So,
Well, no, he might have it. You
but
don't know
we
that.
need it. But we're gonna.
I'd
take
at least
this
like
as a
to know
work-
what I'm voting on.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'd like to hear, I mean, you may not be satisfied, but at least like we should hear what we're talking about here.
you next to the microphone.
Oh,
We are in a public meeting right now. We're in our legislative meeting and we're looking to, we have the resolution. We understand the closing is Tuesday and we understand the importance of the closing
well, but they're
to,
together.
for the timely, initiation of the project. The mayor has, some questions, so I'm going to let her ask you directly.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Bill, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so Bill, we got something sort of right before our meeting, so for most of us, if not all of us, we're not really aware of what we're voting on. For me, I should speak. I want to know what it is. Number one, you have a closing on Tuesday, is that right?
I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, I got it.
So you have a closing on Tuesday.
We have,
Oh,
so it's a tax and bond financing closing. It is about a four-step process, and the most important step is on Tuesday, when all of the parties have to confirm by writing that we see no impediments to close. And this would be an impediment to close. And then they do the mailing, and if it doesn't happen on Tuesday, it will not happen this quarter, and it will get put off for 3 months.
okay, that's fine. The question is something that we just received and we're being asked to vote on. What were the changes and why are they being made?
From a business term standpoint, there are not changes that are material to what we agreed to with the board. The issues are, it's a very complicated transaction with low-income housing tax credits, New York State brownfield credits, and the various credits and the different components of the development all have requirements that relate to the condominium structure and the easements. Everything that we have done doesn't in any way change our business deal with the village. It just allows the funding to flow in the way that it has to in order for the development to be viable.
Okay, so the word amendment means change. What are the specific changes that we're agreeing to?
I can't list the changes sitting here in my house with my cell phone on my ear. If you want to have an explanation of the changes one by one, I think that would have to happen in the next, couple of days in an in-person meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Bill, we'll probably set up a follow-up meeting to do that then.
Yeah, I mean, just so you're aware, I don't need to be involved, but I am out of the country tomorrow night until well after until basically for 10 days.
Okay, we'll have Jim do it then.
You know, Jim and yeah, that's fine. I mean, all right, I'm not on speaker anymore.
You are. I'm in a public meeting, so I really can't have a private conversation right now.
Okay. Yeah, so
Okay.
all I was gonna say is I think that this is a fine thing to do, but I think it should be done in person, and I think that
No
Jim
problem.
is absolutely capable of doing it that way. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
wonderful.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so what I heard, and maybe I heard wrong, it's very complicated, it's very financial, and I still am not hearing what the amendment is and what the changes are that you all looked at. I don't need a 3-hour analysis. I need to know what the changes are so that we're satisfied before we vote, or I'm satisfied that I know what I'm voting on.
I think it would be most helpful. And you know, I completely respect the position of the board, and the due diligence. I think that's an important factor. The oftentimes what we're up against is changes in language that has to do with the funding of the project that has no material consequence to what we're doing. And I have to be honest, it is complicated. So it's sometimes difficult. However, in vetting this and working with our land use attorneys and everything, we are completely confident that there's no material issue. However, we probably is not necessarily in our best interest to wait another quarter, because this is not something that the developer can control. And it's very possible funding from these things you could wait a quarter, you could wait a year. And so I think it is important for the village, and to the greater benefit of the village itself, to arrange a time to meet with Jim Wendling, which we could do as soon as tomorrow or between now and Monday, so that we can give the detail that is required, because it is above my technical expertise to be able to explain it. We'll probably have to get several experts on the phone. It's that
So
complicated.
let me tell you what I'm hearing and tell me why I'm hearing it incorrectly, okay? So we've moved from, it's really not a material change, and the staff has looked at it and is recommending it, to no one here is able to tell me like what the actual changes are. So it's either so complicated that I don't understand who amongst you decided that it was okay, or it's not complicated and somebody should be able to
So-
explain it to us.
So again, the specific language that was changed was very specific on the way that the IRS wanted the developer to put forward the benefits of the project. And there could be an interpretation of that language that we felt meant that the benefits, that the benefits were part of the deal in a manner that we did not intend to in the LATA. So we wanted to be very clear that these weren't benefits in exchange for, because again, it was a couple of weeks ago when we discussed it initially, but the gist of it is the way it was worded, we were concerned that the wording of it would make it sound like they were giving a public benefit to the village, as if it were in a different context than it is. The reality is we wanted to make it sure that all of the things that were negotiated into this deal were what gave the ability for us to transfer the property to the developer. They weren't developers doing this above and beyond. They were part of the negotiation price, if you will, of that transfer. Am I explaining that correctly? Okay, so it had to do with that language. We subsequently, Linda worked with their counsel, Linda Whitehead. They changed the language. I don't have the specific language change in front of me, but that is the acceptable language that then alleviates any misconception that could ever be had by a language saying that the developer was doing something that wasn't actually tied to the negotiation and transfer of the property in the first place. So we made very clear, I think had the language been as initially proposed, we felt that there was a risk. Again, it didn't materially change any of the, any of the things for the deal itself, but the way the IRS wanted to see it made it look like the benefits were not actually part of the purchase of the transition of the land itself.
That's where we were last time, a few weeks ago when we discussed this. I just haven't heard anything since until tonight. That was actually the crux of the conversation, that the village actually felt the language may have been a bit misleading for us, not for the developer, but didn't benefit the village. That it could have been misunderstood. That was the last conversation we had. I don't know if it was 2 weeks. It feels longer than 2 weeks ago, but it's probably only 2
So
weeks.
that language was changed, and I think what's missing from that this conversation is exactly what that change was.
Right.
So I think to that end, we can have a call to
Right.
specifically
That's where I
talk
think we
about
left
that.
it, that you guys actually thought. So it wasn't the developer thought, which actually changes the conversation a bit for me. That said, there wasn't an actual follow-up until tonight from that. We're going to address this with the developer because of the language that's being used seems odd. So you all had meetings and whatever, and so we're missing that last piece, I think.
Yeah.
And seeing
So-
it this way doesn't actually
And-
say
and
anything.
Again, understood. So we will set up a meeting and perhaps during exec, the board can give us a time that they can meet over the next couple of days so that we can go forward with the closing in the best interest of getting this project done.
And the second piece, is it dependent on the first piece? Or is it a separate issue?
The second is an easement agreement, what's called an omnibus easement agreement, because there's going to be I believe it's 5 different easements that will be running in favor of the village. The easement agreement is, if I can just look at this for a second, is referenced in the LATA agreement. But basically, this would set forth under what circumstances, the village can use certain portions of the developer's property once once it's transferred to the developer.
What would be an example of that?
Well, for example, when people are going to be using the walkway, the kill.
They can go through there.
Or when we're going to be,
Right.
or when village staff would be using it to clean out the kill.
Right.
Or so all those have to be there. What I was told today, for example, and that's why the easement agreement needs to be refined because it has issues in and of itself. There will need, apparently the developer will need access to the first floor of the parking area, which will be the village spaces,
Right.
because their geothermal units are apparently going to be accessible only through the first floor. So, but the language, if you were to read that agreement, it basically says that they have, the right to just enter. It doesn't say who would enter. So it's almost as if anyone could enter. So there are some things with that agreement that have to be changed. That information was something that Ms. Whitehead and I only discussed today because only today, as I mentioned earlier, were we informed that in fact they needed that particular document for the closing. I will say in all candidness to the board, we don't even have a final easement agreement. We have a first draft of an easement agreement, which I have already marked up and Ms. Whitehead has already marked up, because there are things in there that neither of us would, want in favor of the village. So I think in terms of that agreement, it is, while I would love to say to the board, if you approve it, I can't tell you, I haven't even seen a final version that I would like. Let me put it to you that way. And the only reason it was put before the board tonight was because of the time sequence dealing with the closing, which again was information that I got 2:00 this afternoon.
Okay, so this is also needed for the closing on Tuesday.
Yes, in
Okay.
fact, this is even needed more than
The other one.
the other one, but.
So
but
the
both.
easement piece makes more sense for me.
Okay,
to sign off on tonight, so at least we get one thing done.
okay.
Because it seems very reasonable and understandable, right? It's complicated. It's the first floor. They have to get to things. Public has to be allowed to walk,
Right.
who owns what happens. So to me, that's like a very logical, like, I get that. I understand that on behalf of the public. I'm happy to sign off on this because this, and as you just said, you're not happy with it yet. So there's nothing to ever do with trust of the staff. I totally trust the staff. It has to do with like us having to vote on things. This I'm comfortable because you yourself are like gonna look at it and go, I know what needs to be done. This is, easements is like our thing, right? We understand all of that.
And that's what that is there. As I said, I believe
Right.
it's 5 different easements and it's just basically setting forth the responsibilities of each side.
Right, and you've got to be on the lookout for the public and make sure that everything we agree to, that the public has access to the waterfront by walking.
Right.
That the parking is going to be a shared piece of concrete, really, like one floor belongs to the public, to the village, and 3 floors belong to the owner.
Correct.
And so it's understandable that you need to work through the deals. I'm happy to sign off on that and get
Yeah.
this thing sort of put away. Does anybody have any objections to that? Annie?
No.
You're good with that, so
Mayor,
we
if we
have,
can, maybe.
we could do this.
If I
Yeah.
can suggest, we can take a motion to table the LATA resolution.
Exactly.
Then we can deal with the last resolution of the evening. So can I have a motion to table the 30 Water Street Third Amendment to Land Acquisition and Disposition Agreement?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that is tabled. And let me go to the next resolution. And this is 30 Water Street Omnibus Easement Agreement. Resolved that upon review by the village's special counsel for land use matters and the corporation council, the village manager is authorized to sign the omnibus easement agreement with WB 30 Water Street LLC, which agreement is referenced in the land acquisition and disposition agreement. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Go ahead, Stuart.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so we got 50% of it done.
Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn to executive session for matters of, I know, personnel and.
Personnel and
Personnel,
I
collective
don't think
bargaining,
Is collective bargaining tonight? Is that gonna be next week?
Oh.
So personnel.
personnel and property.
real estate, I
So
guess.
move.
Anybody wants a second?
Second.
Okay.
All in
thank-
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. It is 9:05. We're sorry we had some issues with the internet tonight. These things happen. And we're gonna go into
Yeah.
executive session. We'll see everybody as a work session next Wednesday. Have a good evening.
Yeah.